fun, and welcome to the Happy Hour, the happiest time of the week. Today we are going to talk about doing better and therefore being better. And as we look for things to do in life, what are our next steps? Sometimes it's work, sometimes it's writing a book, sometimes it's going back to school. But always, most importantly, and along with whatever else we can do, it can always be helping somebody else. And I'm so excited for Judi King, who has created one of the most incredible, necessary, phenomenal organizations, a nonprofit that helps. And here's Judi is, as I say it. Hello, Judi. And I was we just lost Judi. Judi, I got to get you back in again. I can continue with the description. She has created one of the most incredible foundations that helps kids, those that need emotional and financial and any kind of support from a family or basic support system that just doesn't have it. So those coming out of a foster care system, the shelters, or whatever their situation is, they need help. They don't have it. And they're trying to get through school, through 4 years of college, through whatever it is, and they have nowhere to go. And, you think about it, we've got these kids supported until they turn 18 or whatever the age is, and then they're on their own. Who's there to help them? And they're still kids. And that's what Judi did with this incredible, here she is, with the Wily Network. That's what Judi did. And what we say in Morphem is, you look on that shelf for that thing that's missing, that invisible thing that's missing, and you figure out how to put it there. And that's what Judi did. But this time it was saving lives. It was these kids who had nothing, 4 years of school, and deserved everything that they should have. They deserved everything that they could be, but nobody to support them. And that's what Judi did. Judi put that support system into place. So to allow these kids to achieve and strive and thrive. And here we are. And it's just an honor and an absolute joy to be with Judi to share this story. I had the honor of having Judi speak at our Boston event in May. And I can tell you, there was not a dry eye in the house as you hear what she's doing. But more importantly, I don't think there was one person in there not motivated to go out and help somebody immediately leaving that building. So Judi, thank you for all that you do. And let's talk a little bit. Let's get right into it. Tell us about the Wily Network and how it came
together. Thank you for having me. And thank you for having me in March when we first met, because I have, Morph Mom is all about making connections and learning from each other. And so many of the people that I met that day are still part of Wily and have really been helping us to evolve the organization. So thank you.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I didn't know that. Oh, see, it's all about the connections. Oh, I'm so happy about that.
And that's why we call it the Wily Network. If you think about young people who have largely been on their own throughout their lives and have had it within themselves to get themselves to college and to see a future for themselves under some really challenging circumstances, they've had a tunnel vision, right? They had to sometimes push things aside that were really important in their lives in order to achieve their goals. And then they get to college, and it's a whole new experience to learn that those connections, those networks, the people out there are really what they're going to need to thrive and to reach their dreams. And so that's what the Wily Network is all about. And for those of you who might be wondering about this, the word Wily is a tribute to the cunning, the strategic nature of what students had to go through to arrive at college.
I want to go back to that too. So, these kids get help, thank God, up until a certain age. There's something there. There's some support system that's there for them. And they turn 18, or, they go off to school, and it stops. And what a terrifying thing, and what an unfair part of the world. Well, these kids who deserve to thrive more than anybody in the world, who've shown that they can and have overcome every struggle, every obstacle in the world. And now it's like, well, now what do you do? It's just unbearably unfair, and at the same time, so incredibly inspiring and encouraging that you figured out how to fill that void. So tell us how you do it, and tell us actually what are the biggest struggles that they hit at first, because many times I think it's not the overall thing. You maybe can get the scholarship or the funding, but it's the day to day. It's the pillow, it's the coat, it's the book, it's where do I go during a vacation when everybody else is gone and the kitchen might be closed. So tell us about
first of
that.
all, I did not invent this. This was started by the Casey Family Foundations. Ron Davis started UPS, set up 4 foundations, and they really did research to what happens to young people who are in the foster care system when they age out of foster care but have arrived at college. And at Wiley, we realized that not everybody was noticed by the foster care system. Our social services are overwhelmed and don't identify everyone that could use their services, for better or for worse. And so they developed a program to support students while they were in college. When I read about this at first, I realized 2 things. One was that we needed to broaden the definition of who needed these services. But I went around and I looked to see what were the sort of best practices at each of these programs, to see and to listen to students to see what we don't want to do what we think students need. We want to do what students say that they need. They're the experts of their lives. They can tell us what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And so we set this up where the main element from Casey that we took was their coaching model. And so what we do, if you arrive on any campus on the first day of school, you see a campus filled with parents. And many times, even if parents are divorced, parents will move that child onto their campus. And so for a Wily Scholar who's moving in by themselves without the things they need, and they look across the room and one of their roommate's parents is making their bed, that's the first minute they feel like they don't belong. And we don't do this because we feel badly for students. We do this because these are students who have so much capacity in them and they've already proven themselves, but they're walking into a system that's not set up for people who don't have a family system. And the way college works is you're expected to go home on school breaks. And so if you don't have a place to go, you have to then go tell a stranger your story and why you need housing over break. And it is true, they do turn the heat down just a tad during breaks. And so not only are you alone in that dorm, you're freezing. And it's hard. And many students don't want to go tell a stranger why they might need housing.
Right. Why are you immediately made to feel different? Immediately. Why is there all of a sudden a line drawn? Like you just said, almost the first day.
I've been talking a lot about, I've been interviewing people to work at Wiley lately. We're expanding and we're hiring for some new positions. And I was talking to someone last night and I said, this is our job. We do this as work, but this is also, we meet these incredible students. They're incredible people. And I said, yes, it's work, but all relationships are work. Friendships are work, marriages are work, raising children is work. You love doing it, right? It's so worth it. And I think that's a big part of what we do is we're establishing transformational relationships with young people who are really navigating this on their own, who when they forget to write a paper and they're in a panic, they don't have anybody to call and tell, you don't want to tell your peer. Sometimes you do, but, or when you have some kind of sort of, you feel like uncomfortable rash that you are like, should I go to urgent care? Now, we're not doctors. We always say go to urgent care. But you still want that person to call and to problem solve that with you. And so that's a big part of our program is this coaching piece. And one of the things that we do is we hire people who are trained as therapists, people who have a real deep understanding what it means to grow up having experienced some serious trauma. Because one of the unique things about a Wily Scholar is, well, they have all the academic tools that they need to be successful. They, train of thought for a second. They have they actually have a competing force that actually is intruding on their ability to be a student. And so while many parents are doing everything they can to positively influence their young person's academic career, people are leaning on Wily Scholars. So I think one of the things that's complicated about a Wily Scholar is that they love their families and their families love them, but their families aren't able to parent them in this moment. And we hope that that's true one day, but it doesn't really happen. And so, and sometimes they're leaving their siblings in unsafe and unstable situations, which also makes it hard. You know, they have all these competing priorities that make it really hard to focus on biology.
And at that age, to deal with, like you said, the guilt that has to come along with that. Number one, like you said, just maybe leaving in general. Maybe, you know, a family who's never gone to college, they don't understand what's happening to begin with, perhaps. But then on top of it, like you said, leaving others behind, but at the same time, trying to do better. And you know that deep down they're thinking is then they in turn can help everybody else as well. Like, I don't know how we could juggle that in our 50s, 60s, or how someone at 18 years old can juggle all this, navigate it. And I don't know. I thank God you guys are there for them, because I don't know how they do it.
They're just marching through their lives. And I think they're, you know, we always say that we're the assist, right? We're not doing this. They're doing this. And so my guess is they would probably graduate through college, and maybe 75% of them. But I think the difference is, how do you help students to graduate whole, healthy, and balanced? How do you help students to, they have to make their own choices. We don't ever tell them what to do. But what we hope is that they do stay on campus and graduate so that they can help their younger siblings and be a model to their younger siblings, and then someday support their family of origin as that family, you know, works to manage whatever they're managing.
Now you say scholars, so it's not the tuition itself, correct? It's, can you explain to everybody out there what it is exactly that, you know, it covers, and what you're looking for also for help for people out there, from volunteers or others who can support what you guys are doing?
It actually costs us about $15,000 a year to support a young person. And if you added up all of the time that a parent spends supporting a student in college and gave that person an hourly wage, and then looked at all the purchases and the financial support, that the transportation, the food, all of those other things, it's way over $15,000 a year for many people. Even dorm setup alone is a lot, and the computer and the phone. So what we ask people to do is to support us by giving us $15,000 a year, but to make a 4-year commitment to do that 4 years in a row, so that when we accept a student, we can say, we'll be here in 4 years. We're going to take you through this journey. I shouldn't say take you through. We're going to walk with you by your side for this journey.
And I know some may be asking now, so if they do make that commitment, would they be able, is that for one child, or is that just to cover a child? And is there a relationship ever with some of the children,
right,
some of the
so
students
that is not to sponsor a specific child. That goes into, all of our donations go into general operating. And we have a good reason for this, is that one student may have, you know, maybe a sculptor who needs all these art supplies that actually end up spending more than $15,000 on. And there may be another student who has less of a need and really has the basic needs, and, you know, is studying humanity. You know, students have different needs. Students have medical needs. You know, we don't know what's going to come up. The only time people have relationships with specific students is, for example, if somebody wanted to develop something like Morph Mom, you might sign up to be a networker, and I might introduce you to that person. Always say, you know, go once. We actually want you to go once. We don't ask you to do much, but go one time. And I always say, everybody should learn how to have a bad lunch, right? You got to get through that that awkward moment. And then after that, they're adults. You could then see them again. You might make further introductions. You might see them, once a month for the next 3 years. So once we make that introduction, that's really up to the individual student as to whether they want to pursue that. We also have a gift giving program where when a student comes in as a freshman, somebody might sign up to be their gift giver for their birthday and the holidays and graduation for the next 4 years. And you don't get to meet the student, but you write cards and they give you a wish list and you prepare gifts for those days.
So we talk about what they need maybe on campus, like we were saying, the computer, like a pillow, like whatever, shoes, coats if you're in a really cold area. But there are the times, like we also mentioned, about the vacations. And sometimes, maybe you can stay at the dorm for a shorter break, Columbus Day or whatever it is. But what about the long breaks? What about the Christmas, the 3-week, month-long breaks where you
right.
can't
So we've worked with most of the colleges so that can happen. But, sometimes people don't feel safe there either. And so we will work with students and we'll rent them an Airbnb. We have a relationship with somebody who has apartments. And so we might be able to put them up in a furnished apartment for a period of time. For Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, regardless of your religion, those are days that no one should be alone. And so we actually, for the Christmas holiday, we go to a hotel. And so anybody who doesn't have a place to go that wants to come, and now we're up to about 20 people, we meet, we have dinner at the restaurant, then students maybe watch a movie or play games or something, and they'll stay the overnight in the hotel, have brunch, and then go to a movie the next day. And that students have really felt like that was festive, but not familial. Because when you bring a family-like situation to the table, it just is a reminder of what they don't have and what they wish they had.
So that's not a situation where volunteers could come and help, because that might also make it like sort of the opposite of what you're trying to create in that situation, where it's just a happy
it's
still
going to be a reminder. I think Parents Weekend it's one of the hardest weekends for a Wily Scholar. And a student really explained to me this year, he said in past years it hadn't even crystallized for him, but now he really understands that there's why don't I have parents that are doing this for me? Why aren't my parents in a position where they could be here? I don't want to go out with my friends because their lovely parents are going to say, oh, where are your parents? Or I'm going to be watching their happy family and wishing things were different. He said, but what really gets me is the kids that call their parents and say, could you just not come this weekend? I'm feeling really busy. And you see that many students can really be jerks to their parents. And when they get home for Thanksgiving, they're still going to get their favorite meals made. They're going to get all the sleep they want. They're going to invite their friends over, and they're going to return for exams, maybe not prepared, but well rested and nurtured. And so that's very different than if you spend the Thanksgiving holiday in a slightly cold dorm and then do exams. So he really helped me to understand, we help students to get off campus on Parents Weekend, but there's no avoiding it. It's a complicated time.
So for women out there, and again, as you know from our event up in Boston, it's about morphing and what's your next step. And, it could be anything. It could be work or school or, going back to school or writing a book or starting a nonprofit or whatever it is, whatever your next step may be, or something much smaller than that, But I think what it could always be is helping. So whether that's your main focus, whether it's going back and finding a new way to volunteer and help, or if that's coupled with whatever
Yeah.
you're doing. I feel like that morph can always happen regardless of your direction. And I can't think of any better opportunity that you offer to women looking for a next step and a way to volunteer and a way to help, and something that is so relatable and understandable that why these kids need our help. So tell us the best way. And you mentioned before that there's the you can donate for 4 years, but are there other things that we can do? Not even just monetarily. Could it be helping to find places, helping to find activities, spreading the word?
So
And what is
we're
the
in the
region
greater
that you
Boston
cover?
area. We also have a small program in Middlebury, Vermont. And, you know, there are so many ways to help. If you have a job or internship, we're talking about some of the brightest people, talented, hardworking, motivated people that I have ever met. If you need to hire a summer intern, call us and we'll we'll post it and see if anybody applies. If you want to, you know, the best thing, the thing we need the most is ambassadors. So I always recommend, if you're having a book group, if you're part of a book group, there's 2 books that we recommend. One is called In the World. The other is a new book.
I'm
The
sorry.
first one is A Chance in the
What was the first
World
one?
by Steve Pemberton. The other book is a newer book called Accepted, a Memoir by Emmy Nightfield. And if you chose that book for your book group, we would come and talk to your book group about Wily, about the book, about why we feel like everybody should read these 2 books. And when you do that, you just widen our circle, right? That's what we want. We want to be ambassadors for each other, regardless of what we're doing. And so the more people can talk about Wily, the better. Right now, I'm starting a new campaign, which is monetary, but I'm trying to get 1,000 people. Thank you, Erica. The other one is EMI for Emmy, Nietfeld for Emmy Nightfield. I'm trying to get 1,000 new donors to donate $100. And I want to do that by the end of the year. And so if somebody did that through Morph Mom, that would be great. We'd love to have a Morph Mom crowd, you know, see if we could get 50 people that know about Morph Mom to each donate $100, but really spreading the word, because even if you're not donating, even if you're just out there in the world, for people to understand that there are these really successful young people who have gotten to some of the most competitive colleges in the world and are navigating that on their own. And they're an invisible group of people, and they're a small group of people, and they're members of our community, and we all need to take care of the members of our community.
You know, I'm thinking, and you mentioned earlier about just how these kids need, you know, anyone with a therapy background as well to help them navigate a lot of this. But also, as far as mentoring, when you said about the internships, can women or morph moms help with, maybe there's a kid who's interested in a certain field, or who needs help just preparing a resume, or applying to business school, or setting up a bank account, whatever it is?
Yes,
Can we
and
help
you
them
can
in
go to
those
our
ways as
website.
well?
Maybe Erica can put the website in too. She's doing a good job there. Thanks. And you can sign up to be a networker or a volunteer, and we would love that. And you don't have to be local to do that. Anybody can do that.
Can you give us, and I know there are millions of stories about, you know, what you've seen, and stories that really just have, I mean, every day somebody touches your heart, obviously. But maybe can you share a story or two, just when you knew this is what you were meant to do, even on the hardest day, the saddest day, the worst day, you knew this is what you were meant to do? Maybe could you share one or two of those?
For me, I had worked for 32 years as a clinical psychologist and worked with some of the most disenfranchised children that we have in our society. Children who had been returned from a failed adoption, children who were not able to live in a family situation. And when I read this article in the New York Times, I, who am not, I'm not easily, I don't get emotional. But when I read this article, out of foster care into college in the New York Times, I knew it was those young people who had made their way out. And I thought, oh my gosh, but who's with them now? Who's walking by their side on this journey? And I see this time and time again. There was a young woman who had been at college uh, um, for I think about a year, and she had a twin, and her twin had dropped out, and so maybe it wasn't quite a year, but her twin didn't make it through the first year. And she had been in a group on campus for students who were grieving the loss of a parent. And somebody told her about Wily. And, and so I met her and we're talking. And I was telling her about what Wily does, how Wily will send care packages and, we'll celebrate your birthday and take you out to dinner. And she just started to cry and she said, oh my gosh, just like all the other kids. And if you think of those moments, right, when there's just no one there and you just need somebody there. An extreme example I've seen is I work with a young man who lost his vision last September, and he's at MIT and he knows that I talk about him. He's okay with that. And when I think about what would have happened if he had had people in his life, somebody would have actually come to MIT probably, right? We hear these stories all the time, to support him, or said, you need to leave school, right, for a year and learn how to be blind, and then learn how to learn, and then learn how to learn mechanical engineering at MIT, right? That's a steep hill to climb. Well, he can't leave MIT because where is he going to go if he leaves MIT? And the school, I still think schools feel like there's somebody, did I say this already, who is willing to run through fire for a student, right? There's this expectation. I mean, it's the little things. It's the sending a parent an email with information that the students don't get, right? And then,
yeah. Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but especially during COVID.
Right. And that,
what were they going to do?
That was, things really, I think the schools realized that we could be of benefit to them. I think students realized one of the things that campuses where students were told they could stay, they were still getting daily emails that said, and if anybody remembers, you were associated with someone in college, they said, okay, everybody has to be out by March 29th. And then they said, actually, March 23rd. And then they said, actually, tomorrow. And a student wrote me a text message, and I had written her a text message to say, here's the plan. And she said, oh my gosh, I was just going to text you to say, what am I going to do? And then she said, as always, you've already been talking to people about this. And so she really did see us as her safety net. And I think that's what we hope. That's what we hope, that one, that students will know that they can trust us. That doesn't mean we always see eye to eye, but that we're going to stick with them through the ups and downs of that transformational relationship and see them through. We're not going to disappear. And that we're going to be creative in trying to figure out how to keep that safety net solid.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you with the whole COVID nightmare on top of everything else about the student, the blind, the boy who's blind at MIT. Oh God, 6'4". Okay, I'm 5 feet, so it's a pretty bold statement of me to say that the little guy who's 6'4". But so what did happen? Or
well, he's a remarkable person. He has a job for the summer. I think we support him, and we've had other people who are working to support him sort of separately. And I think that's the critical piece of Wily is that we are not cookie cutter, right? We look at what each student needs and we try to help them problem solve on how to get that. And so, and that was the sort of initial question you had about, like, do you help a specific person? That's why we don't, because this young man needs a different kind of help than another student. And so actually we're working with him. He just got a very nice scholarship from the National Federation for the Blind. And I think he's going to go to a program for 6 months to learn how to be blind.
And do you help them navigate that with the college? Like, for example, with MIT, where he may not know how to say, well, I lose my credits. What happens if because like you said, I have to learn how to learn to learn. Can you guys then help with that
we have
sort of
really
thing?
nice, solid relationships with the colleges that we work with. And now we're at the point, we've been seeing students now for over 7 years, and the colleges call us. They, and so they refer students to us, and we work with them to make sure that the student is, one of the things about a Wily Scholar is they go into the Career Center and they say, I want to be a lawyer. And the Career Center says, who in your family is a lawyer? Or do your parents know any lawyers? And as soon as that topic comes up, a student will say, this place is not for me. I thought they were going to help me. And I think they're learning more and more to not say those kinds of things. In fact, one school actually invited us to help develop sort of some language program around talking to students in general, because don't start there with any student. We don't need to. And so one of the big problems is this is a system, the college is a system that sort of requires you to have family support. And so if you don't, then you're boxed out. So people are like, oh, you got to college, that's great. You have all these resources. Well, if they're not accessible to you, if you're getting that it's only for the people with family privilege, then it's not a great resource for you. And so we work with the colleges and we work with the students to connect them to those resources.
And we were talking about how we can help and we reach out, but how do the students find you? Do they find you before they go, or when they're there?
Right.
How do they
so
know
it's
how to
really
reach out
interesting. I guess as we've grown and as we're getting better known, a couple of weeks ago, somebody found out about us on Reddit, and we were like, "What?" It was, but students, mainly the referrals come from the colleges, and we try to meet them before they start college, and then that way we can help them get ready. For the most part, we meet them sometime between September and November 1st. And then now I was working with a student the other day, and she was on some anonymous forum at her college, and somebody said, I'm struggling with this. And somebody, not even the student, somebody else said, look into the Wily Network. And we got 2 referrals that night through our website based on that.
Could there ever be, now in those situations, you have sort of a kid that you've met, and let's say in September, like you said, but what if there becomes an emergent situation sort of mid-year? Let's say December hits, something happens, and
Absolutely.
can they reach out to you in that situation?
The only time we really don't take new students, and we have, because we have no rules that we stick by, a second semester senior, we feel like is already sort of on their way out. And so, and we build a community, and there is sort of an expectation that you'll participate in this community. So, but sometimes we do because something happened and they were all of a sudden alone. But we'll take a student any time of the year. This is when we get the bulk of our students. So the week after next, we'll be interviewing 15 students. And so we anticipate having 30 new scholars by November 1st. So that's a lot of gift givers that we need.
Wow. So that's why everybody out there, we need to get on this. We're going to join this campaign if I can get some sort of a Morph Mom group going and we could do this, I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best to help with this. Now that's the financial part that we talked about, and we also talked about physically volunteering. Is there ever an opportunity, and I know there's not a relationship with the student, is there ever an opportunity, let's say in September, where you need hands maybe to go and make the bed when they get there? Or is there something like that that we could ever do? Oh, I think I lost you on Wi-Fi for a minute. So wait, we're going to get Judi back in. But another question I had too was about possibly helping. Maybe, you know, we can show up and make the bed. We can show up and do whatever it is. We are so thrilled, and it's okay. So I lost Judi on the internet, but we're just about to wrap up as it is. I hope you guys listened and were able to hear what about all this incredible Wily Network that Judi has founded. It really, truly is one of the most moving things I've ever heard. And I'm no crying in baseball, and it's tough to sit and listen to that. You know, these kids out there that we could help them. And we could help them because Judi made it possible through the Wily Network and so many other organizations out there as well. And there's no reason that when we morph, as I mentioned before, that's not one step that we're doing. We're not going out there and helping. So you guys, everybody, thank you for listening today. And Judi, I'm sorry we lost you to that, but hopefully we're going to see you very soon again. And keep sharing this. I would love to start some sort of a Morph Mom group. If anyone is interested, reach out to me. Heading towards that goal, if we can all donate $100 before the end of the year, let me know if you'd like to be a part of this. Most importantly, everybody, again, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. And if nothing else, we can be better if we do better. And I think that's what Judi taught us today. So normally I end this with keep morphing. But I think today we end it with start morphing and start helping, and we got to help. Judi, thank you. And I will see you guys all next week here on the Happier Hour. All right, guys, everybody. We'll see you next week. And Judi, thank you so much for joining us today.